Hello. Vince Leone and Elroy Edwards had a lot of arguments in Fire Country Season 3, Episode 8, but Elroy's message was eventually conveyed in a way that Vince couldn't ignore in Episode 9, perhaps changing important relationships in the process. After her stories in the firefighting drama solely focused on her as a supportive friend to Jake and Bode, her romantic connections, or her career future after becoming Three Rocks captain, Fire Educated's invention finally brought Eve to the forefront of Fire Country Season 3. Eve's family's departure from Fire Country concealed a significant plot point, which was finally addressed in Season 3. In Fire Country Season 3, Episode 8, Eve's desire to reunite with her family in her creation of Fire Educated, which would have unavoidably affected the Edwards lands, brought her and Elroy's past to the fore. There was already a noticeable tension between the father and daughter, but it got worse when Vince showed up. The winter premiere of Fire Country Season 3 finally allowed Vince and Elroy to face one another about the true reason Eve's work as a fireman troubled Elroy. The hornet's nest it unearthed means Vince is unable to ignore what Elroy confessed in a vulnerable moment. Vince learns the hard truth about his relationships from Elroy's remarks after Riley's death. Vince turned to characters like Jake or Eve. The main reason for Elroy's hatred was that he believed Eve had chosen firefighting in Station 42 over her own family, which was the reason he was angry with Vince and Cal Fire for visiting his ranch and telling him what to do with his land. Episode 6 of Fire Country Season 3 showed how committed Eve was to battling fires as a child, even putting aside her relationship with Francine since she thought her decision wasn't supported enough. Elroy might get that notion if Eve reacted the same way with her relatives. Elroy casually remarked, "What more could they take?" in reference to Cal Fire and even directly to Vince when he gave him an update on the plan to preserve his land. Even if Elroy expressed his sincere regret for his daughter Riley's passing to Vince, his attempts to snatch Eve away from him were nonetheless justified. The remark had a long-lasting impact on Vince, who appeared hurt by Elroy's reference to Riley but also understood how Elroy had perceived him, demonstrating for the first time that he was willing to remove himself from Eve as a result. Vince's insight portends a dismal future for his relationships with Jake and Eve. Vince may become less close to Eve and Jake after learning of Elroy's suffering. Episode 9 of Fire Country's third season features Max Theriot as Bode Leone and Billy Burke as Vince Leone. Vince may find it difficult to allow his relationship with Eve and Jake to return to normal after realizing Elroy's suffering from the loss of a daughter. Given Eve's desire to spend more time with her family and the fact that her job already takes her away from Station 42, she was the captain of Three Rock, Vincent's remoteness from her might not be a direct harm to her. In fact, living nearer to the Leones used to benefit her just as much as Sharon did Vince because they were all grieving Riley and missing Bode, but that wasn't the case in Fire Country Season 3. Vince's choice to separate himself following Elroy's speech came at the worst possible moment since Jake would have benefited from the Leone's support, particularly Vince's, during that turbulent period. But Jake might respond completely differently than Eve. He was already close to his mother, so unlike Eve, he wasn't trying to mend fences with his family. Even still, Jake was in a vulnerable position because he had just lost Kara in Fire Country Season 2 and had just given up custody of Genevieve to Rick, which meant that he would be without his new family in a matter of weeks. Managing that previously caused conflict with Vince. Vince's choice to separate himself following Elroy's statement came at the worst possible moment because the Leone's support, especially Vince's, would have helped him get through that turbulent period.